Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of the Liberland Show. I'm your host, Adam J. Carswell. Today we're joined by Matthew Yngson. Matthew is the Liberland representative of the Philippines. Matt, thanks for being on the show today, and do you have any opening remarks for our listeners?
Hi, Adam. Thanks for having me, and just want to say thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to everyone's support, the continued support of Liberland in the months and years to come.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on here. I know before our call, we kind of got to know each other a little bit, and you have a really interesting background. So I want to get straight to it. How did you begin your journey as a Liberlandian?
As I think most of Liberlandians started off, first saw it online, whether it was some news clip or whatever. But for the heck of it, I liked the idea, and I signed up, and not expecting anything to actually get back to me or anyone to actually get back to me. But lo and behold, I actually got a reply and got to meet someone who used to be representative of Liberland in Bangkok, in Thailand. And I approached the guy online, and we had a little chat, and we got our stories, and we wanted to support Liberland. And I asked if they had a representative in the Philippines, and one thing led to another. He connected me, and eventually got to talk to President Vitt. Mm-hmm. And beginning January 2016, I was the official, because of my background in media and as a business person, I had a good long interview with them, and they eventually appointed me as the official representative of Liberland in the Philippines. Ever since then, I've represented Liberland here in the Philippines, where I am now, and I've even had the opportunity to actually launch the country in February officially in the Philippines, where we had a party. We had about 20, 30 people attend, some members of the media and some generally, curious folks. Mm-hmm. And we've opened up our Facebook page, and we've had some pretty good response from the get-go. The official position of the Philippines obviously remains intact. We've had some good response from local people, whether they are from media or from business. And I've had a good number of people to help me out on board. I decided to reroute the concept of Liberland and approach the academic sector, where we've had some fairly successful activities. Last year, we had the Philippine International Studies Organization host us in their annual conference, where we had a table. We've had some increasing interest in Liberland. Most people still do not understand it from the perspective of what the project is doing, but there has been positive support. So far, most of the people have actually asked me about it, and they keep on asking me what's being developed. And I actually post new things at least once every 2-3 weeks, or if not weekly, to keep people just updated on what's happening and what new developments we've been doing and all of that.
Well, thank you very much for your service in the Philippines. It sounds like with your personality, you're going to be very persistent with that. And I'm sure any traffic that we've already driven through you, and for example, through the Facebook page, other outlets there, I'm really looking forward to seeing, what relationships and what futures come out of the Philippines now with your presence there.
So I've actually expanded to serving most of the Southeast Asian countries. I've met some Liberlanders in Singapore, in Malaysia, and a few other Southeast Asian countries. And in fact, try to get in touch with some who are also in Indonesia. A non-official way, Vitt knows that I try to support not just the Philippines, but I'm also representative for the other Southeast Asian countries, specifically Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, even Vietnam. So I've actually increased the scope of representing not just here in the Philippines, but throughout the region as well.
Wow. So that majority of Asian nations right now that are associated with Liberland, I mean, maybe you could clarify for me, are you kind of, this might even be an American term, I don't know, are you kind of quarterbacking the some of the operations there, like you just mentioned, outside of the Philippines?
Right, exactly. I mean, in that aspect, so if, say, for example, they ask, okay, can you do a background check on this guy who wants to support us in this so-and-so country, and I'll do that. and I'll give them a recommendation. And if I have the time, I'll actually talk to the person person first.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that. We have someone in Indonesia who supports Liberland in their own way. They join hockey leagues with Liberland uniform, things like that. In particular, Southeast Asia and maybe in the general Asian region, Liberland is relatively unknown. And everyone that I come up with and they ask me about Liberland, I already have this more or less 10-minute spiel that I memorize in a way anyway.
Right, we're kind of getting it right now, right?
Right, yeah. And explain to them the whole status, because we don't want to come up as trying to be something that we're not. And in Southeast Asia, it's very important because I have had the opportunity to appoint several representatives here in the Philippines to act as part of the so-called consulate/representative office. I want to make sure that is being replicated in other Southeast Asian countries the proper way with due respect to the local laws.
Yeah. And so can you tell us, because I know we talked about Philippines and some Southeast Asian countries now, but you personally, we mentioned earlier before the interview that you had some family in Vancouver. You travel to the Caribbean quite frequently. So tell us about that. And does that tie into your professional background?
I've been a media practitioner for about half of my life. I started out in radio back when I was a freshman in university. So think about a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And after that, that continued on for a good number of years, which moved into TV, to print, to online. Eventually, an opportunity came a couple of years back, just about the same time that I was started being part officially of Liberland, to become a sort of a commercial diplomat. And I've known some folks in the Caribbean for about less than a decade, and what we noticed is that they lack representation in Southeast Asia or the Asian region as a whole. We decided to maybe it's high time to have that kind of movement and just bridge the Caribbean and Southeast Asia. So it had to do a lot as well with what I'm trying to do for Liberland. So it's not exactly very much different. Mm-hmm. And because of that, for the last few years, I've had the opportunity to meet up with a lot of diplomats. Officially, right now, I am the executive director and envoy for diplomatic affairs of the Eastern Caribbean Southeast Asia Chamber. And also, just last year, when we opened up the Caribbean ASEAN Council, I became its founding counselor. So I've met a lot of diplomats, government representatives from the Caribbean, because as we bridge the Caribbean to Southeast Asia, that's what we're trying to do. And that's where I try to inject a lot of Liberland stuff as well. If I get to know these guys, then we get to talk about, hey, do you know about this thing called Liberland? Oh, yeah, I've heard about it, saw it in the news, and then I try to inject that. Some of them are interested about the project, and I've had the opportunity to relay that to Vit and Thomas Walls and Bogie Wozniak. And we've had some common friends who are Liberland supporters coming from the Caribbean. Although I don't represent Liberland in the Caribbean region, I try to get the ball rolling over there as well, not just Southeast Asia.
Right. Yeah. So that's really unique too. You've got a hand in the pot on all three, excuse me, and both of the hemispheres. And obviously, with Liberland being in Europe, you kind of got this worldwide perspective. So with all of that knowledge, with all of that information, the connections, everything that you've made, I have to ask you, Matt, where do you see Liberland in the next 3 to 5 years?
These past 2 weeks, I should say, were just tremendous. Or these past few months in total were just tremendous. We opened up our first embassy in Somaliland, or the embassy in Somaliland. And just last week, we had official recognition from the U.S. Libertarian Party. Mm-hmm. And the other day, we had that first discussion at the European Parliament. And of course, we've had Ivan Pernar supporting us for a good year or so now. I originally thought that Liberland would not even get where it's at 5 years ago. And we're only on year 3. I would think we would have that official recognition in the next 5 years, at least for one country.
Absolutely.
So it's just a matter of letting the Croatian government understand that we do not mean them any harm, and letting them be part of the process itself. I believe in the next few years we'll have that sorted out, and we'll have our first settlement there, official settlement, and we'll have a government house there, and official recognition will follow therefore.
Awesome. Couldn't agree more. And it's always great to hear that from a fellow Liberlandian to get that perspective. I do want to give a chance for you to allow the listeners to know how they can connect with you after the interview.
Well, you can send me an email, philippines@liberland.org. Send whatever. If you know anyone in Southeast Asia willing to support not just the Philippines, but the whole Southeast Asian region or Asian region for that matter, just drop me a line and we'll work it out.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show, Matt. I look forward to the next time we get to connect. Yeah, any closing remarks?
Well, I just want to thank you, Adam, and I wish you the best of luck, and please do continue what you're doing. It's great for our country. It's great for all people who believe in libertarian idealism all across the globe.
Will do. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been episode 7 of the Liberland Show with Matthew Yngson. We will catch you in the next episode. Thanks.